Hello and happy Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm meteorologist Rich Marriott, and this is Weather Out West, where we check out what's happening weather-wise across the western United States. You'll find coverage from the Pacific Northwest to the Mountain West and California to Arizona in the Southwest. First today, we're going to start with Denver, where there is still a threat of localized flooding from monsoon moisture, but drier, hotter weather is headed their way. Meteorologist Kathy Sabin has the latest.
Hello and good day from Denver, Colorado. I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team meteorologist Kathy Sabin, and we are enjoying another cool day in July. Temperatures below the average of 91 with abundant cloud cover and the chance of beneficial rain. But with slow-moving storms comes the threat of localized flooding. This is that seasonal monsoon, the wind shift that allows for that tropical moisture to feed out of Old Mexico northward into the desert southwest and into Colorado. But the high will start to move westward and take with it that plume of moisture. So we'll be back to hot, dry conditions and elevated fire danger as we move into Friday and Saturday. That moisture plume arcs through the desert southwest right over the top of the Front Range and up into the Midwest. We have had numerous flash flood warnings out, watching those burn scars very carefully for mudslide potential for several inches of rain day after day. The cooler weather trend is welcome. Temperatures today will be in the 70s and 80s compared to the 90s and triple digits, but severe weather threat still something we have to monitor this time of year. Thunderstorm wind gust potential to 55 and 60 miles per hour, certainly there. And although flooding is the primary concern, hail is a possibility with some of these storms. Severe threat much lower heading into tomorrow afternoon. So again today, level 1 out of 5, really low tornado threat. It's really going to be about flooding and hail and maybe wind. Clouds will be increasing after a bit of sunshine this morning. That plume of moisture taking those slow-moving storms over Denver and out onto the eastern plains. We get localized flooding, a big threat with some of those heavy downpours. Temperatures today 10 degrees cooler than average, starting in the 60s, topping out in the low 80s. Back to sunshine and 90 tomorrow, close to triple-digit highs Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Little moisture coming in Tuesday and Wednesday for thunderstorms and a cooler weather trend for the middle part of next week.
Well, the new drought monitor is in, and 45% of the state of Colorado is in drought. But just like has been the case all summer and all spring long, it's a totally different situation east of the Continental Divide, where we've basically got no drought, versus west of the Continental Divide, which is virtually entirely covered in drought at this point. So kind of give you a little update in terms of where we are in terms of the drought situation across the state of Colorado. Still a significant amount of mountain drought, as I mentioned, especially west of the Continental Divide, a little east of it. Now, we did get a lot of monsoonal moisture this week. More on that in just a second. That was not, to repeat, not included in the most recent drought monitor update. That drought monitor update goes through precipitation that fell through Tuesday morning, so not included this week. We may get some more relief next week. So let's kind of end things on a bit more of an optimistic note. So Leadville on Tuesday, rainiest day in over 4 months. We needed that water there in Leadville. A lot of places like Pagosa Springs getting a big downpour on Tuesday, and the St. Louis Valley yesterday and Wednesday getting a lot of that rain as well. So some good news, but that not reflected in the most recent drought monitor update. Also, by the way, all that rain we picked up here in parts of the metro area also not reflected in that drought update as well. And next week, cautiously optimistic that things could be pretty soggy with another surge of monsoonal moisture for the mid to end part of next week. So yes, it'll be dry and hot this weekend, but next week, fingers crossed, we can get some beneficial moisture to the mountains where we really need that water and hopefully start putting more and more of a dent into that drought.
Is also headed for the Phoenix area and could give them some lower early morning temperatures. Meteorologist Jen Wall has the forecast.
I'm meteorologist Jen Wall in Phoenix. Hey, waking up to drier air this morning across the southwest. And as a result, your morning temperatures are a little lower than this time yesterday. It is 83 right now in Phoenix, 60 in Prescott, 66 Sedona, 59 Winslow, and 49 in Flagstaff. Now those daytime highs, they are going to continue to rise, but slowly over the next several days. So today we are just 1 degree shy of where we should be this time of year. I mean, yesterday I was walking around thinking it doesn't even really feel like summer outside throughout some of those earlier morning hours. Almost kind of felt like fall, and same with this morning. So that's what you get in the desert when you're used to 110, 115 in the afternoon. You get, low 80s, almost upper 70s in the morning, and it feels incredible. So dew points partly to blame for this nice little morning cool down anyway. Incredibly dry air moving in across the state from the southwest. And so as that happens, it's just going to feel not as muggy outside, not as sticky, the moisture not clinging to that heat. So you can see we're mostly in the 20s and 30s, quite a difference from yesterday when we were in the 50s and 60s statewide, and we're waking up to some rain just east of the valley. So we're going to be holding on to a drier weather pattern for several days as the heat cranks up. But if you're like, I'm not really into 110 this time of year, well, those storm chances, they are returning by the start of next week, and I'll show you in just a second. For now, though, it's going to be tough to even get clouds to open up across the state. We have just a little bit of moisture in Flagstaff and east, but again, that's just in the form of clouds. All of the action, it is in New Mexico and beyond. So as a result, take a look. Your exclusive 12 News monsoon meter is at a 0 statewide with that drier weather pattern. So we'll put your futurecast into motion, and it's going to confirm that. Yep, all of those clouds, even the rain, staying in New Mexico. It almost looks like Arizona has paused, with the exception of that one little stretch of clouds just moving across northern Arizona. So very dry, pretty warm over the next several days, right at about average for temperatures. You'll be in the 80s around 8 a.m., mid-90s by 10, and triple digits this afternoon. So also notice a longer stretch of triple digits. 100 by noon. That hanging on to 8 p.m. Earlier this week, we only had a couple of hours for that. So your forecasted high today in Phoenix, 105. That is 1 degree below the average. So we might as well just say we're right at about average. You can see your valley temperatures for neighborhoods. Some of them even topping out at 106. Goodyear, Glendale, Surprise at 105. Looking at you, West Valley. East Valley a little lower. Fountain Hills, Apache Junction, 102. But, it's going to feel pretty similar no matter where you go. Statewide, 95 Globe today, 89 Payson, 86 Show Low, 89 in Prescott, 108 Parker, 107 Lake Havasu, and your 7-day forecast. So it's a slow climb to the top. We'll hit 107 tomorrow, a couple degrees above average, then back to 106 on Saturday. One thing that will remain constant is the sunshine. You get that through Sunday. I've bumped Sunday down to 109, but we'll have to see about that. Back to 110 on Monday. I think all of the sunshine on Saturday leading into Monday is going to get us to that 110, which is going to have a lot of leftover heat. And then those temperatures, they start to lower some Tuesday into Wednesday, and that's when we get those slight storm chances across the valley. Stronger up north. Take a look. You're in the 80s today for Flagstaff. That sticks through Monday and Tuesday. Back to the 70s on Wednesday, and better storm chances for Flagstaff Tuesday and Wednesday.
After the break, we head to the Golden State. Don't go anywhere. Your Sacramento and San Diego forecasts are next. Our next stop is sunny Southern California, and that's exactly the weather that's headed for San Diego, but their high temperatures may be slightly cooler than average. Meteorologist Vanessa Paz has more.
Happy Thursday, everyone, or as some folks like to describe it as Friday Eve. This is a look from our Hotel Del Skycam in the Coronado area facing Cabrillo Monument. I'm almost certain that there are a lot of people visiting, not only because it's San Diego, perfect destination for vacation, but because we are just hours away from the doors opening for Comic-Con. It opens a little later this morning. As we take a look at headlines across San Diego County's region, we will have slight cooling Friday through Saturday, temperatures overall have felt more like spring than summer. It'll be noticeably warmer, but those temperatures, as far as the swing, won't really occur until next week. And then looking even farther ahead towards the end of next week, we'll have a surge of monsoonal moisture, and we'll take a bigger look at the bigger picture in a moment. Here's what I have on tap for today's highs. Nearly perfect along the coastal areas. We may have a mix of sun and clouds depending on where you are, especially the closer to the immediate coast that you're hanging out this afternoon. But regardless, temperatures are going to climb into the mid 70s, mid to high 80s for the inland valleys. So daytime highs, especially for the interior parts of the county, are still going to sit a lot cooler than where we should be for this time of the year. Mid 80s on tap for the mountain areas, and the deserts will produce highs in the low hundreds later on today. All right, as I mentioned, it's a really big weekend for San Diegans and even visitors. A lot of people fly into our city to enjoy the Comic-Con event. We are going to see partly cloudy skies this afternoon for anyone who has arrived for the event, mid to high 70s. We'll see those temperatures drop a little bit on Friday and Saturday. Not really noticeable change, though, when it comes to the spread of temperatures, and then we'll be topping out a little warmer in the mid to high 70s come Sunday. All right, so big picture, this trough of low pressure is going to continue to enhance onshore flow and also continuing to bring in that marine layer when it comes to the coast all the way towards the valley neighborhoods. Then we have this ridge of high pressure, also known as a dome of warm air. It's going to make its way down to the surface, and that's going to not only warm things up for us, but it's going to pick up some monsoonal moisture looking ahead to the end of next week. Now, taking a look at your overnight lows, will be in the mid to low 60s for the coastline. This is for those neighborhoods that hug the 15. Closer to the valleys, it will be quite cool. Another cool night on tap. Low 50s is where Ramona will drop to later on tonight. Mid 50s for areas like Julian, as well as Alpine and even Mount Laguna, and Borrego Springs won't get much cooler than the low 70s later on tonight. Here's a quick look at Friday's highs as we wrap up the work week. It'll be fairly nice. Mid to low 70s forecasting is what I'm forecasting from Oceanside all the way to about downtown San Diego. Mid to low 80s for the inland valleys, 81 degrees tomorrow afternoon for Julian, and we'll be in the low hundreds for Borrego Springs as well as Ocotillo Wells. In comparison to where we should be, again, this is compared to our 30-year average. Temperatures for the coast, the mountain neighborhoods, as well as the deserts will still be trending below seasonal, anywhere from about 3 to 7 degrees or so. All right, winds are also going to have an uptick due to that onshore flow. Anytime they, again, topple over the mountains and descend down those mountain slopes, they become, again, it surrounds the warming air, and they also become enhanced in terms of the speeds. Mid 70s is what we have on top all the way through the weekend, and then we'll see those daytime highs climbing close to 80 degrees next Tuesday and Wednesday. Here's what I have on top for the inland valleys, low 80s to upper 70s. Not too much change when it comes to the end of our work week into the weekend. Notice how we'll have minimal changes all the way through about Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday is when we'll start to feel that noticeable jump in daytime highs. Meanwhile, for the mountain areas, I have low 80s on tap all the way through the first half of the weekend, and then things slowly but surely start to warm up. I mean, talking about Sunday, we're close to 90 degrees, and then by Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're hitting highs in the mid to low 90s. Meanwhile, low hundreds on tap all the way through Saturday for the deserts, near 110 by early next week.
And now we head up the state to where they have been enjoying below average temperatures. Meteorologist Monica Wood now turns her attention to some increasing fire risks around Sacramento.
I'm meteorologist Monica Woods with our regional headlines through northern and central California. For the coast, we've got fog plus coastal flooding. For the valley, morning showers possible into our Friday, chance of showers for the foothills. In this era, thunderstorms is going to elevate our fire risk. Now, we talk about the coastal flood advisory in place through early Friday morning. Basically, we've got some high tides and some water that may impact some of those parking lots and low-lying areas near the coast. Traveling northward, quite a different story. It's a red flag warning in effect through 11 o'clock Thursday night. This expands throughout parts of the Sierra for our high potential of fire spread due to lightning-sparked fires. Out ahead of this fire risk, Governor Gavin Newsom putting into place additional resources. We've seen catastrophic fires any time of the year, but heading into this very dry part of the year, additional 14 engines, 4 water tenders, and 2 dispatchers will be in Nevada, Sierra, and Plumas counties through tomorrow. Well, it's dry right now throughout the high country. You can see it's a clear day, but things are going to continue to change rapidly. Anybody boating on Lake Tahoe needs to be aware of these situations with our thunderstorm risk extending throughout the Sierra, not only today, but through tomorrow as well. A risk of that dry lightning all throughout the Sierra Spine, especially focused just north of I-80. That means we could see lightning with no wetting rain and without rain for over 40 days. We are going to see some very dry fuel up there. This is what it does to our sunset. So those cumulus clouds making for a gorgeous sunset in Plymouth in the Sierra foothills. Highs today pretty similar to yesterday. 80s down low, 70s up top for the Sierra. It's a rundown of a cool July so far. Average is at 90 degrees, 14 days below average. It's not the coldest that we've seen on record, but we're starting to see that number climb here. We're at number 4 for the coolest Julys since 1990. Keep in mind, last year was the hottest since 1990, so quite a contrast this year. Our high-resolution futurecast showing some of those thunderstorms developing for the afternoon. Now that counterclockwise circulation of the low moving inland is going to press some of those showers potentially through the Central Valley for early Friday morning. We'll see those showers and thunderstorms reappear for the Sierra Friday, and again for our Saturday forecast. A lot of active weather that we'll be tracking through the weekend. Highs today in the Sierra in the 70s with a chance of thunderstorms as we move our way southward. Still looking at the potential for thunderstorms near Yosemite, a high of 74. Inland areas will be right around 90 for the valley. Across the coast for the Monterey Bay Peninsula, we're in the 60s. Travel southward here. We still see lots of low clouds and fog with afternoon clearing. Highs in the 60s along the coast with 90s as we head into the San Joaquin Valley. Bay Area forecast after morning fog, partial clearing. Petaluma up to 73 today. Vallejo 72. Antioch closer to the Delta at 80 with mostly sunny skies. Northwest coast, it is foggy. Redwood National Park, a cloudy and foggy day there, a high of 63. Inland areas for the valley will warm to about 90. And again, for the northern Sierra, chance of thunderstorms. For the Central Valley, highs will be in the 80s to right around the low 90s with mostly sunny skies, but again, overnight shower possible moving through the valley. Chance of thunderstorms continues for the Sierra through our Sunday forecast. A little drier, warmer as we head towards next week. For the foothills, a slight chance of showers developing overnight through early Friday. Otherwise, a dry and mild weekend forecast. More fog expected for the coast. Look at our extended forecast. There's that slight chance of a valley shower for our Friday. Normally we don't see any rain in the month of July. A little warmer as we head into next week. That'll put us a little closer to average.
And after a brief rest stop in our travels, we're headed up to the Pacific Northwest, where we're going to check in on Boise and Portland's forecasts. Well, next we're heading to Boise, where they're seeing a slim chance of thunderstorms, but otherwise perfect summer weather in the Treasure Valley. Be sure to get out and enjoy it. There's an approaching warm-up and drier conditions as we look towards next week. Meteorologist Hector Mendoza has the forecast.
Hello, my name is Hector Mendoza, forecasting out of Boise, Idaho, and here's what you can expect at least into the next couple days through the weekend and extending on into the beginning of next week, as we'll have seasonable temperatures through the weekend. So that sunshine and lighter winds will continue not just today on Thursday, but into the next couple of days. The other thing we're paying attention to is a slim chance of thunderstorms each and every day, at least until the beginning of next week, as we can see some moisture making its way on through. Again, those chances again are very slim, but still ingredients and all of the components are there for some of that instability and shower chances to come along. Today on Thursday, we're expecting most of that to stick around the Idaho-Nevada border due to some of the moisture coming in from that system off of the coast of California. But after that, we are going to see some of that start to trickle its way on into the Treasure Valley and even make its way on up into the mountains, as we'll have some of those thunderstorm threats at least into the middle of tomorrow and then through Saturday as well. But here's a sort of wider view so you can take a look at where we're expecting some of those chances there there through this afternoon, as we'll get into Thursday afternoon and into the evening, as we'll have a quick sort of round of some thunderstorms that could bubble up there closer into the Owyhees and then south of Twin Falls, closer again to the Idaho-Nevada border. Things stay relatively clear in the Treasure Valley and even up into the mountains, as we can see maybe some clouds start to build up later on this evening. But then as we get on into tomorrow, we are anticipating a slight chance for some thunderstorms, at least here in the Treasure Valley. Right now it looks like it's about a 20% chance there for tomorrow, with things drying out and expecting to stay dry into the next couple days and into the following week. So again, that's exactly what we're expecting just into tomorrow. So as we take a closer look here at this particular model, that's going to show us a chance and when we can see them on Friday around 5 or 6 in the afternoon, as we can anticipate some of those storms to start to come through. That goes through the rest of the evening, maybe seeing some clouds continue into the evening on Friday before clearing out. And then as we fast forward into Saturday, again, another chance to see some of those storms make its way on in, most likely sticking around in some of the mountain spots, but can't rule out maybe a spot shower or two in Caldwell, Nampa, and even here in Boise as we get on into Saturday afternoon and evening. So today, temperatures slightly warmer and compared to yesterday, as we're going to stay into the closer to the mid 90s in the Treasure Valley, upper 80s in the Magic Valley and up into the mountains, low 80s out in McCall, getting closer to the mid 80s out in Sun Valley. So we're expecting a warm day today. But as we talk about some of the temperatures, not really changing too much from today, tomorrow, and even through the weekend, as we anticipate sticking around those low 90s, still slightly below average, but still warm. Then we get right on par with some of the normal temperatures there on Monday, and then climbing up closer to triple digits on Tuesday and on Wednesday. So it doesn't look likely we get pretty close to triple digit heat, but it doesn't look likely that we tack on another number here in the month of July for any days at or above 100 degrees so far for this year. We have seen 3 days back in July 1st, on the 8th and on the 14th was the last time that we saw triple digit heat. Now comparing it to last year, we had a total of 15 total days for the month of July in 2024. So far this year, or at least this month, we've only had 3 as we look at the last time again on the 14th. But as we take a look at the 7-day forecast, as we've already sort of noted, we're going to see some of that sunshine continue on through Thursday, maybe a chance for some of those thunderstorms to come along as we look on into Friday. We'll see not much of a temperature change as we're getting on into Saturday and Sunday, with some clouds kind of coming and going, but particularly staying relatively sunny into the weekend. Then it's not until Monday that we see a little bit more of that sunshine. Temperatures start to warm up into the mid 90s, and then we're going to see much warmer temperatures there Tuesday and Wednesday, getting up close to 98 degrees. And even those morning temperatures start to get into the mid to upper 60s as we head towards the middle of next week.
Now flying west, firefighters are making progress battling wildfires in northern Oregon. We're seeing scattered showers and cooler temperatures heading their way. Meteorologist Rod Hill gives us his latest forecast for the Portland area.
On a beautiful sunny Thursday in Portland, I'm meteorologist Rod Hill with your update from our Rose City. Unfortunately, wildfire news is still a big headline here locally, not in the Willamette Valley or Southwest Washington, but out into the Columbia River Gorge. So Skamania County, which is in our central gorge on the Washington side, has 3 fires burning. The largest is the Bourdon fire, which has burned over 11,000 acres. This sits in between the small cities of Bingen and Lisle. Wind forecast today 10 to about 20 miles per hour, very similar to yesterday. Temperatures will be anywhere from about 85 to 90 degrees in that fire zone. Now the good news is fire crews had a good day on Wednesday. They report some containment lines that have been built at this point, hoping to get more, of course, on this Thursday. They've also cleared out brush and fuels around. They sound like they've done that around every home they could come to, and there's about 1,000 residences in that area. So some great news there. This is just the large wildfire map. I don't show it to you that often. It still shows overall 4 large fires in Washington. That's not bad. Plus the one burning out in the gorge I talked about. And then in Oregon, the main cluster of storms continues to be fires down in the southwest corner of our state. And most of this was from lightning activity back the first 10 days of July. So those fires have been burning down that way for a while. So overall, the wildfire news is really not that bad considering we're getting into the final week of July. We've got a quiet day underway. We are watching a thunderstorm threat down in extreme southern Oregon near the California border later today. Otherwise, we are looking at that thunderstorm threat area, and this will repeat itself tomorrow. If anything, it looks like there might be a better chance of lightning strikes on Friday than this afternoon, but again, this is the light green color along the southern portion of our state. We've got another day starting off cloudy along much of the Oregon coast. Here's our Chinook Winds Casino Resort camera in Lincoln City. And this is another day where it looks like some areas will get some sun, but maybe other areas could be stubborn. The best chance for cloudiness along the Oregon coast holding would be up along our north coast in Astoria and maybe northward up into Long Beach. Inland cameras are all sunny. There's our state capital in Salem, where it was 93 degrees yesterday. And here's a camera out in the Oregon Veterans Home camera in the Dalles. This is east of the fire zones in Skamania County that I showed you. But the winds will be similar. This shows northwest winds sustained at 18 this morning. Again, looking for some gusts generally to hold under 30 miles per hour today. It's a warm morning out there, 76 degrees. Portland hit 90 yesterday. The biggest confident forecast call today is that we will stay under 90, so we'll hold in the 80s, but still going to be warm. Futurecast shows the low clouds we have along the coast this morning, shows those clouds potentially holding on in pockets. And then later this afternoon into this evening, the green speck shows that scattered shower threat and thunderstorm threat down around the east. Now on Friday, and this is a pattern we expect to repeat into the weekend, we get a bigger surge of marine clouds in the morning, and that means cooler air off the Pacific flowing inland and becoming our dominant force. So it was 90 yesterday. The weekend, we could spend both days only in the 70s of morning clouds and afternoon sun. And again tomorrow, there's that scattered shower and storm threat down across the eastern areas of our state. So our forecast numbers, yesterday, as I mentioned, Salem was 93, today 87. A little bit of a break from the from the hot temperatures, I should say. Battleground 85, with morning cloud cover, Longview, Kelso up in Cowlitz County, north of Portland and Vancouver, may only hold in the 70s. This just shows you that wind report out in the gorge where we're watching the fires in Skamania County, west winds gusting to about 25 miles per hour. Statewide temperature, still some 90s, including Madras and Central Oregon. Here's Portland's 7-day forecast. And the cooler weekend, 76 Saturday, 78 on Sunday.
And after a break, we're going to check on the weather around Washington State with the Seattle and Spokane forecast. Stay with us. Well, our tour of the weather out west continues with Seattle, where the temperatures have been consistently comfortable this summer, and that should continue into the next week. Here is a familiar meteorologist with the latest. And a good Thursday morning to you. I'm King 5 meteorologist Rich Marriott, and we continue in a pattern we've had for the last several weeks, which is a pretty nice pattern. We're going to be seeing the low clouds and fog around in the mornings, sunshine in the afternoons, and comfortably warm temperatures out there. Not many of the tower cams this morning stayed in the sunshine. So far, Everett at mid-morning still seeing some sunshine with that bank of fog and low clouds out there in the distance, and may still make its way in over Everett. Not too far away, also in Everett, there at Payne Field. You see they do have the sunshine, though you can see the clouds and fog farther out there in the distance. Not quite as lucky out at SEA this morning. They do have the low clouds out there and just a gray start to the day, and that's been pretty much the story up and down the Sound after those clouds moved in overnight as our onshore winds have increased, and that increase is going to keep the clouds in here a little bit longer, and we're going to cool off a few degrees from where we were yesterday. We saw a lot of low to mid 80s from about Seattle southward and mostly in the 70s to the north, and we're going to drop off down into mostly in the 70s, it looks like, as we head towards this afternoon. Take a look at our pollen count from Northwest Asthma and Allergy. Even with the warmer temperatures, all the pollens were in the low range, and maybe the plants have finally exhausted themselves of making pollen. That would be nice for allergy sufferers, that's for sure. Checking our first alert 7-day forecast. Well, we continue to see just variations in that theme. We're going to cool a little bit today. You can see we cool more for Friday and Saturday, and then by the end of the weekend we start to warm back up again, and by the time we get out into the first half of the work week, back into the 70s and low 80s. Pretty nice pattern that has been pretty constant here for most of the last month. Take a look out. You can see right now on the mid-morning that we've got the clouds that have moved in, filled in the river valleys there in the Olympic Peninsula, and then filled in most of Puget Sound. There's some breaks breaks in that overcast, but it's pretty much solid right now. That is going to be breaking out, though, as we head towards later in the morning. And by mid-afternoon, just about everybody should be seeing the sunshine and have a pretty nice summer afternoon. Take a look at the computer models. You can see basically it does clear out into sunshine for this afternoon. We get a stronger push of marine air overnight tonight. In fact, seeing a little rainfall in there, that's actually just going to be a little bit of spotty drizzle. We might be able to squeeze out of that low-level moisture we're going to have with the marine deck there. But even with that, we're going to see that wrap up. We'll see it clear, not entirely. Partly sunny tomorrow afternoon. Some places may only have some sun breaks for tomorrow, but it does look like as we get into the weekend and start off next week, things will clear out pretty nicely. Checking the situation with our smoke haze. You can see still a little bit over us today, but that increased onshore wind pushes it right on out of here by later today, except right in the lee of those fires over there towards the Olympic Peninsula, where you'll still see a little bit of smoke filtering out from those fires. See our air quality looking pretty good today, all in the good range, except right in the mid-central sound. We do have a little bit of moderate air quality this afternoon, but just barely into the moderate range, and looks like good air quality up and down the sound as we head into tomorrow. So really overall in pretty good shape. Take a look at the mountains. You can see a pretty day up there at Snoqualmie Pass, and you happen to have the day off. Olympics are looking very attractive at this point, and you see up there at Mount Rainier, well, only got a partial picture, but you can see the summit. A gorgeous day to be up there on the trails, that's for sure. And our forecast, that does call for sunshine. Temperatures in the low 70s. Tomorrow also a good day, though you might start with a little bit of fog through the passes, but clear out to sunshine, a little cooler with temperatures mostly in the mid 60s. Take a look at tomorrow, a good day besides hiking tomorrow. If you might be heading off to public spring training camp there. Well, it isn't spring training, it's actually summer training camp for the Seattle Seahawks there in Renton, and not looking too bad if you're headed out that way. It is going to stay cloudy into the day. It actually starts at 1 o'clock, but they open the shuttles at 2 hours before, so at 11 a.m., but it looks like it's going to be partly sunny. During the practice, those temperatures in the upper 60s to right near 70 degrees, so pretty comfortable for being out there at the VMAC. Take a look out. You can see in terms of our high temperatures today, we see that drop off with highs mostly in the 70s, still a few upper 70s out there, but then we cool more as we head farther into the weekend. We're going to be seeing temperatures drop back the upper 60s and low to mid 70s. Sunday we're going to warm just a little bit, and then we settle into just a few morning clouds, otherwise sunshine for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Those highs in the upper 70s and low 80s, and if we check that 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, you can see we stay pretty much in the 70s and low 80s all the way out through the first part of August. I can't place him, but he definitely looks familiar. Over to the inland northwest, it's a typical July week. Dry and breezy weather is on tap. It's spurred on by a low pressure system passing to the north. Meteorologist Thomas Patrick has more.
I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick in Spokane, Washington. We are back to our usual July weather, with today likely being our hottest day of this week. Nothing that will get too carried away, at least not for today or this week. Next week could be a different story, though. So basically back to your normally scheduled summer season, if you will. Sunny and dry for a while. And for now, our temperatures will hover pretty close to average. But even that puts us in the 90s, at least for a few days here. If anything, it's the winds that we are once again focusing in on. So today and tomorrow, a bit breezy, probably not to the levels where red flag warnings will be necessary, though, but it could be a close call for tomorrow. Here's what we're looking at in terms of our almanac. Again, to point out that 87 degrees is as high as the average goes all year. So we are starting to enter this stretch of late July, which is on average our hottest weather of the season. And for today, we are back above it, just by a small margin, but that's enough to put us into the low 90s. Again, mostly sunny skies over downtown Spokane, the pavilion right there in the foreground, all sunny skies. Good thing there's a little bit of those shade panels on the pavilion, helping those at Riverfront Park for today. A beautiful spot there, had a very enjoyable sunrise even on this Thursday morning. But as we look at the kind of overall weather pattern, there's this upper air low pressure area moving through British Columbia. I have this moving through mainly Western Canada, so not a direct hit to Washington State or the Spokane area, but close enough that it gives us what's called a pressure gradient. Basically, the high pressure is to the north, and the low pressure is to the north, and a high pressure is to our south and east. So because we're halfway in between that, the winds start to increase due to that pressure gradient, basically like funneling in the winds and accelerating them. So with that being said, today, slightly breezy outside, 15 to 25 mile per hour wind gusts today, and then tomorrow a little bit stronger. You see some of the orange shades on the map here. That would be close to 30 mile per hour wind speeds at their maximum. That is not strong enough to do any kind of damage in its own right, but we know that in the summer season, the higher the wind speeds are, the higher the fire danger ends up being correlated. That's half of the equation. The humidity is the other half, and thanks to some of the rain earlier in the week, we might be able to get away without red flag warnings for tomorrow, but it is something that we will monitor just because there is a little bit of that wind energy. As you saw earlier, that low pressure area stays to the north. So too does all the rain chances. It's just going to be completely dry for the inland northwest. Not just today, not just tomorrow, not just this weekend, probably all of next week too. So we're entering yet another very dry stretch of weather. We got an update on our drought monitor for this week. No change for Washington state. So still more than half of the state of Washington being reported as a severe drought. By the way, the red shaded areas, which you see on the other side of the screen where Pullman, Washington is, that is the extreme drought. Only a sliver of Washington state, but they are running the biggest rain deficit so far this season. So today's high temperatures in the low 90s, again, slightly above average today, kind of eases back towards that average mark for the weekend ahead. Saturday and Sunday, both looking very comfortable weather-wise, but the heat pours on next week. At the very end of July is when the hottest weather is likely to arrive. I mean, the outlook here is centered directly over Spokane. It does not take much to put us in the 90s, but I think this puts us in the mid-90s at least towards the tail end of the month. 93 for next Tuesday, 94 next Wednesday. Some computer models as hot as 98 for that time frame as well. So plenty hot and plenty dry for the next 7 days.
Now we know what's happening with the weather out west, and after we take a pause, we'll see what's happening across the nation. Stay with us. Welcome back. We've looked at all the forecasts across the west. Now it's time to expand our scope. Meteorologist Jordan Fraser has details on the heat the rest of the country is feeling.
Hey everyone, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Fraser. We're jumping right into your weather watches and warnings because there's a lot of orange on here. I don't know if you guys are a fan of Syracuse or not, but no, that's not what we're talking about here. I'm talking about all of these heat advisories. And most of these heat advisories are typically issued when temperatures feel like above triple digits. And that's going from Michigan all the way throughout Ohio, Indianapolis, all the way down toward Dallas. And typically the Texas standard for having heat advisories is going to be a bit on the higher scale versus much of the Great Lakes region. So it's hot out there, and it's going to be hot for this afternoon. We got a lot of those upper 90s, lower triple digits from the Gulf Coast all the way out through the Appalachian Mountains toward the Great Lakes, even Buffalo, New York into those 90s. And no, the West Coast is not excluded from it, except for San Diego and Seattle, but that's almost a given. 105 in Phoenix, 94 in Boise, 83 for Denver. All right, during the overnight hours, do we cool off a little bit? Not so much. No, not efficiently, that is. Still a lot of those upper 70s and lower 80s across much of the East Coast. And well, here's kind of why we might see some of these showers and thunderstorms pushing its way through with some small severe potential. Nothing drastic, nothing too crazy for this afternoon and evening. But we start to see, all right, maybe a bit of rain to try to help cool us down. Great, we'll happily take it. Now, most of this stuff staying sub-severe, which is really good. Pop-up showers across much of the Mississippi River Valley heading into your Friday afternoon and evening, and then much of the weekend actually looks pretty good across the country. Look at your Saturday. All right, a little bit more into the afternoon hours, but the overnight hours tend to be pretty good in terms of rain chances. Then again, they always are, so you got that going. But the next 6 to 10 days, wow, it is still going to stay very hot, especially across much of the Gulf region, from Houston all the way out toward Tallahassee and even much of the Northwest. You got much of Seattle, even the far eastern parts of Washington, northern parts of Idaho, seeing a lot of very warm, very above average temperatures. But what are these temperatures? Well, Seattle actually not too bad. A lot of those 70s. Spokane getting up into those 80s. Boise staying in those 90s. Moving on down, Phoenix, all right, actually staying below 110. That's a start. But even Denver getting awfully close to those triple digits. San Diego staying 70s and beautiful as always. Much of Texas, a mix of those 90s and triple digits. Corpus Christi, I'm actually surprised we're not seeing some of those triple digits. Texas has been abnormally cooler lately compared to the past few seasons. Even Florida, a lot of those mid to upper 90s, extending out farther north, 90s, triple digits in the Carolinas. Wow, it is heating up out there, so make sure you guys stay hydrated, stay cool, take breaks in the shade, and stay safe out there.
Well, that makes the West look a lot better place to be right at the moment. Right now, in a couple of minutes, we're going to be headed out of this world. We'll learn about a brand new NASA satellite that will help us understand how the solar wind interacts with the Earth's magnetic field and how it affects everything from northern lights to GPS accuracy. Right after this break. NASA just deployed new technology to study the Earth's upper atmosphere. They launched a new satellite this week. They're hoping it will provide new insight on how solar material hitting our upper atmosphere impacts us right here on the surface of the Earth. Seattle's King 5, Leah Pizzetti, has more of what scientists are hoping to learn.
Check this out. NASA just launched twin satellites from California on a SpaceX rocket. These satellites are named Tracers and are officially in space now to study how the sun affects Earth. They'll study magnetic reconnection, which is what happens when material from the sun crashes into Earth's magnetic field. This can send high-speed particles from the sun directly into our atmosphere. This can impact systems on Earth like communication satellites, GPS tools, and power grids. These tracers will fly through the solar cusps and take 3,000 measurements per year to help scientists better understand the disruptions, helping fill a void in previous research.
One snapshot doesn't tell you how the whole Earth system is going to behave, particularly under all the variation that the solar wind brings us. A long-standing problem with space physics research is if this is the Earth, you fly a satellite through the physics you're looking at and you see something. And then it comes around in orbit later and you see something different.
Building on TRACE-2's legacy, two Tracer spacecraft will take multiple measurements at the polar cusps by flying in rapid succession, less than 2 minutes apart.
And so with these two spacecraft flying together, we can address this long-standing problem of trying to understand whether the signature that we see of a process called reconnection, when it changes, is that due to something turning on or off? Or is that just that we're flying from one region to another and so we see a change as we transition through that region? People have tried to solve this problem with various combinations of spacecraft, but without two dedicated spacecraft, it remains an open question as to what's going on.
3 other smaller satellites also launched with the Tracers. These will study things like faster ways to put technology in space and understanding what surrounds Earth. Back to you.
Well, and we've learned recently, especially during the course of the last year and a half, when we've been at solar maximum, that we really do see interaction between the solar wind, our atmosphere, and then it affects things down here on Earth. One of the main things, of course, it's been producing some amazing northern lights, some aurora that we've been seeing on a regular basis. During solar maximum, the sun is very, very active, and occasionally the huge solar flares will spit out a big mass of plasma, just kind of red-hot matter that travels across and strikes the Earth's upper atmosphere, interacts with our magnetic field, and that produces the aurora, and it's been producing quite a bit of it. What it also affects, though, is it can also affect satellites in orbit around the Earth. Oftentimes, they need the space weather predictions in order to be able to know when to shut those satellites off, so they'll be in a more protected mode when all those charged particles reach the Earth. And the other thing, interesting enough, that it can affect is GPS, because the GPS works by measuring very, very accurately the time it takes a signal to get from you to the satellite and to the monitoring stations. And if that is controlled by how many electrons there are in that pathway, and when you get a solar storm, a geomagnetic storm going after you've had a coronal mass ejection actually hit the Earth with a big shot of plasma, it actually affects that. And what we end up seeing is it actually can affect the location that you get on your GPS. For driving around town, it doesn't affect much, but for farmers who are trying to do it to within a few centimeters, it can drastically affect how their equipment behaves. In fact, during the big Aurora about 18 months ago, that one actually had some farm equipment going in circles. Let's take a look at what the Aurora forecast is from the NOAA Space Weather Prediction Center. We do have the Aurora forecast. A little weak system is kind of moving into the Earth's atmosphere, which will give us Aurora. We get it down close to Washington State, but not all the way down to Washington State, it looks like. So we're going to be looking at maybe seeing some Aurora if you're up far north in the Pacific Northwest and looking up there towards the north. You might actually get a chance to see some of the Aurora. Now, the other thing we're looking at here closer to Earth is the drought monitor, and that's going to be showing the fact that we haven't changed a whole lot in the past week. If we take a look at that drought monitor, you can see the West actually pretty dry at this point, and it's going to be staying that way. Haven't seen a whole lot of change in the drought conditions as we take a look at, see if that is up proper. There's that. If we can take a look at that drought monitor. Well, I'll just tell you, we haven't seen much change during the course of the last week or so in terms of what's going on with the drought monitor. There it is. We've got the areas of really extreme drought up here in the northwest, primarily over towards the area up around southeastern Washington into Idaho and northwestern Montana, and then down to the south over the desert southwest. There's that broad area of drought that stretches from around Phoenix and on to the east, and especially down there as you get down to southern area of southeastern area of Arizona and the southern portion of New Mexico. And then you can see if we compare last week to this week, not a whole lot of change headed our way. So that's been in pretty good shape overall.